I'm going to start my talk with a question. So, what is the first thing that comes to mind when I say the word apron? Go ahead, say it. Cooking. All right, it's like a chorus. Yes, exactly. All right, I'm not going to explore too much more. Yes, exactly. So I love aprons, and I spend a lot of time talking to people about aprons, and usually when I talk to people for the first time about aprons, they say, oh, you mean cooking? And oftentimes they associate it with women. And I am here today to let you know that there is so much more to aprons than that. I love wearing aprons. I feel fantastic when I'm wearing aprons, like this apron. Shameless plug, I'm in a band called Bridge Bender, and my bandmate, when we first got together, he noticed that I was really nervous about singing in front of him, so he made me this apron. And he said, you know what, Suzi? When you put that apron on, you're gonna feel like an effing rock star. And I do, like I really do. And you know, that's not so important, but what's really important is I want everybody to feel like a rock star. You know, like I want everybody to feel like a rock star. I want you guys to feel as fantastic as I do when I put this apron on. And I think that's possible. So I'm going to tell you a very personal tale, you know, that kind of weaves and goes places. And it's going to be very much like the tales that my mother used to tell us at the dinner table when I was growing up. But we learned the most from them. And the tale really is about one apron and how this one apron really changed the way that it changed the way that I live my life. And it really took me through some really dark times. And I think that it helped me to survive. It helped me to find joy. And ultimately, it helped me to find hope. And I think hope is what we need right now. We're living in, you know, really dark times, I think. And there's a lot of skepticism and cynicism. And so what I think we need is hope. I'm going to take you back a couple of years to the pandemic, the beginning of the pandemic. So at the beginning of the pandemic, much like Alice, much like many of you, I felt like I was living in a lucid dream. So if you can remember, there were wild animals that were emerging from the forests and taking over the cities. Remember that? And I remember being on the city street in Boston here, not too far from here, and there was a massive coyote late one night that stood in front of me, loped towards me, and then just went right past me. And I was terrified. I was terrified. But I remember thinking, oh, that's not so weird. And everything was upside down in the pandemic. And you know, really small comforts meant so much. And the one comfort that I had that really meant a lot to me was an apron. Now, I started wearing this apron about 2 years before the pandemic started. And I wore it because I wanted to really change my life. I wanted to be more of a maker, okay? I wanted to be a maker in a really broad sense. I wanted to be a money maker. I wanted to be a homemaker. I wanted to be a music maker. I wanted to be an art maker. And I wanted to learn to become a peacemaker. And, you know, I really wanted to have it all. And every morning when I would wake up, I would force myself to put this one apron on that I had been given by some friends to remind myself not to go to my computer and look for the answers. Don't go to my email, social media. You know, really let my hands ask the questions and let the earth provide the answers. And you know, even my sisters have said to me, like, oh, come on, is that true? You know, is that really true? But it's really amazing. It is true. Like, I mean, my life became full of art and music. I learned how to make macaroni and cheese out of a box, which is true. My son is here. He can testify. And, and it just, my home life became completely different. And then my career also took like really strange turns. So I'm a designer, and I used to work at like these big companies that were awesome, and I loved them. But then I found myself going places I never even imagined. So for example, I went to NASA, and I was asked to work with some of the top commanders at NASA to help them to create a more innovative organization. It's like, okay. And I was also asked to spend a day with Senator Tim Scott and Senator Amy Klobuchar at the US Capitol to imagine how we could change the government to help female entrepreneurs live, to help female entrepreneurs. So it was really, I never thought that I would ever be doing those things. And it was scary. It was a fun, exciting time, but it was also scary. One time at lunch, I was sitting next to the general who had invented the Mach 1 stealth fighter. Okay, that was my lunch mate. That was pretty spooky. But it was great. I learned a lot. I really did. But when the pandemic struck, you can imagine, I started to turn to things, as we all did, to survival. And one of my first instincts was put that apron on, girl. It's gonna save your life. And so I did, and I started wearing the apron, and it was really, really, it was really a source of comfort. I was surviving. I was also making friends, So I made some amazing friends at the company that's called Carhartt. Now this guy right here is wearing Carhartt overalls. Carhartt is a clothing company, and they're known for making clothing for kind of workmen. And they heard about, the head of innovation and one of their kind of very talented designers heard about my story of this apron that changed my life, and they were just completely amused, and they were like, let's work on a conceptual apron to help women to find confidence in their lives. And I was like, right on, I have nothing better to do, because we were all so bored. And we started sketching and sourcing kind of images and asking friends to participate, and it was really exciting and fun. And at the same time, I was working. I had started a job at a very large global tech company. And I liked it a lot. I was learning a lot. And then one day, 5 women, it was announced that 5 women were suing the company for sexual harassment and discrimination. So, I went from having these heady conversations about how technology could change the world to conversations that were filled with hate and anger and paranoia and fear. And it was really one of the most disturbing and saddest conversations I had were with a few women that were in Australia, these designers that were on my team, and they were sharing with me the experiences that they had while they were working at the company. And, don't need to get into the specifics, but what I heard was just this lack of hope. You could just hear them thinking can I be a leader in this company? Can I be a leader in my field? Can I make impact on the world as a woman? And I lost my mind. Just how can this be happening right now? How can the state of feminism be such that some of the most talented women that I know are questioning whether or not they can help humanity? This is ridiculous. So I was really pissed and angry, and so I started to ask questions like, what is the company doing about this? What is the world doing about this? And then I started to think, well, what am I doing about this? And so I thought to myself, well, what would I do about this as an artist? So I started to think about artists that I really admired. And one of those artists is Jenny Holzer. And Jenny Holzer created, in 1977, a collection called Truisms. She put together facts and ideas and ironies, and she put them on paper. And then she started, later in her career, to project them onto buildings like the Guggenheim here in New York City. She also put her truisms onto postcards, wooden postcards. And this postcard right here is above our sink in the kitchen. And it says, in a dream, you saw a way to survive, and you were full of joy. And while all this insanity was happening at work, I'm doing the dishes, and I'm like, that is so true, Jenny. this apron that I've got here is helping me to survive. It's filling me with joy. And I thought to myself, like, what if I started writing down my own truisms? What if I wrote a manifesto? And then that's what I did. I wrote a manifesto, the Apron Manifesto. So I'm not going to show you the manifesto. You can go online. You can Google it. It's out there. I'll show you a little bit of it, but I'm not going to show you the whole thing. It's about 160 pages. It's or slides. It's a flip book. It's of collage and imagery, and it's really meant to be, something that gives women and men this impression of like what women can be in the world. So let's project like how can women be like the best, and how can the world support them? And it sparked all these conversations. It was really meant to do that. It's a tool. It wasn't about the manifesto. It was really about the dialogue. So we started to have these really amazing dialogues and talk about, like, what is the role of the feminine at work? What is work? What is play? How are we going to survive this pandemic, this era, this century? And I'm going to show you a few of the images that sparked some of the most interesting conversations. So this is the ceremonial apron of the Freemasons. And if you don't know the Freemasons are a fraternal order that have its roots in the stone builders guilds of the Middle Ages. And this apron is worn by the Freemasons to meetings and ceremonies, and it's meant to indicate your status. And some of the Freemasons that I get excited about are Duke Ellington, Irving Berlin, and Mozart. It's kind of a secret society, but it's rumored that they're part of it. But you know who else is a Freemason? The founding fathers of the United States of America. So what I love about this image is that this is Ben Franklin wearing a Masonic apron, handing an apron, presenting an apron to George Washington, and inviting him to build our democracy. Okay, far cry from cooking. And here's George Washington, first president of the United States, resplendently wearing a Masonic apron. Okay, great. Who else wears aprons? In 1986, the reactor at Chernobyl, the nuclear reactor at Chernobyl, exploded, sending, nuclear waste everywhere. And these are the men and women, they're called the liquidators, that were asked to go in and, basically save the day. And they were sent into the reactor wearing goggles, masks, and leather aprons. Who else wears aprons? The warriors of Wakanda, okay, who are the defenders of the paradise in the movie Black Panther. The costume designer very specifically is referencing the beaded aprons that are worn by men and women in tribes throughout Africa. Who else wears aprons? Jedi. Jedi. So this is Ahsoka Tano. She's one of the newest Jedi in the Star Wars saga. And here she is, okay, leaping towards us in this futuristic saddle apron. And, she really is coming at it from a galaxy far, far away, and she is the personification of the New Hope. So there were a lot of conversations. But really, what did it all boil down to? Well, what is an apron? What does an apron do for you? Well, here are three things that came up time and time again. One, it protects. When you wear an apron, you can do hard things. You can do dangerous things. And you can get messy, and you can make mistakes, and you can do it again. And you learn. Second thing it does, it holds. It holds things for you. Well, it can hold your tools. It can hold your weapons. It can hold your money. It can hold your thoughts and ideas. And it can also hold your dreams. And it can hold you. And while it's holding you, it also gives you a platform to transform and put on another apron. And so, Leo, I'm going to give you this. I'm going to need it back. Okay. So it transforms. So fun. Yeah. And when you're able to be what the world needs you to be, when you're able to transform yourself, it gives you hope. So all this dialogue, all this talking was great, but things started to happen, like real things started to happen. First of all, I don't sew, but I started to make aprons. So this apron, this green apron, is the elegant feminist, the elegant militant feminist apron. This apron in the middle is the apron for the witch that is fighting nuclear weapons. And this apron on the left, which I'm wearing now, is called the dream apron. But not only was I making aprons, other people were making aprons, and they were sending them to me. And one of my favorite ones is this one in the middle, which is a droid, made out of a tin can that is wearing an apron made by one of my favorite people in the world. But what else happened? I started receiving thousands and thousands of photographs from people who were wearing aprons, people whose ancestors were wearing aprons, people of celebrities wearing aprons, scientists, and I even received 2 sewing machines from friends. And this is my niece, Maple, and when she saw the apron that I'm wearing, she freaked out. Because during the pandemic, we would watch sci-fi films and cartoons, and when she saw this apron, she said, "Auntie Suzi, it's the Kung Fu Panda apron." It's like, I need it. So of course I made it for her. And this is the first day that she wore it. And she went all around our town, Kung Fu, punching, climbing trees, chasing after rabbits, and rolling in the mud. And her mother reports that she wore it for 4 days and 4 nights straight. It is now a ball of brown. And we'll probably need to make her a new one. But the thing that makes me so happy about this is that Maple, she's the future. And she's the hope. And so is my son. And so are you. It's not about men. It's not about women. It's not about this country or that country. It's really, it's about all of us. And it's about all of us finding a new hope on this world, on the next planet, on the next galaxy, and the next universe. And so what I say to you now is just go out into this world and be a child, be a dreamer, be a maker, be a worker, but most of all, be the hope that we need now. Thank you.